What is a jewelry design center?
JDC is a family-owned business with deep roots in Montana. Why Montana? Because this community made us. Made us family, made us artisans, made us believe in love, made us hometown heroes. Because this community made us shine. Why Montana? Because Montana is home.
Well, I know you much appreciate this, especially if you're watching on the YouTube. Ryan even put his shirt in the dryer.
Gray on gray today. Got the V-neck, nice low cut. What do they call it? A dangling décolletage or something like that? Dipping? I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But it looks great on me. Nothing new there, but you're welcome.
One of my good buddies used to always say, I'm going to write a memoir someday. It's going to be called Vodka and V-necks, a memoir.
I think I can find my way to that book. Yeah.
That was when we were in our 20s.
Yeah,
that's a long ways away from here. Tuesdays with Tootell here on the Big Sky Breakdown podcast series, as well as the Skyline Sports MT YouTube channel, coming to you through the ESPN MT studio here at the Missoula Broadcasting Company. Okay, so you were just telling me off air about the Carolina Panthers benching Bryce Young. And on one end, I think they've done a great disservice to this young man because he is playing on one of the worst NFL teams I've ever seen. They are completely ill-equipped to actually function within the scope of an NFL game. They've compounded this issue by firing a coach before the season was over twice in 2 years, so there's literally no momentum or continuity or anything like that. But also Bryce Young just looks as if he just can't do it. Rather than analyzing the NFL for the people here on this podcast, I want to ask you this, though. Do you agree with me that quarterback play seems to have regressed across the entire football landscape? And if so, why?
Absolutely not. I think quarterback play is better now that it's ever been, not close.
But why do so many guys in the NFL look so mediocre? Like the first 2 weeks of the season, this is the lowest 2-week average for passing yards in by a cumulative NFL in 50 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is explicable in the following. There were 7, which is almost one short of being a quarter of the league,
right,
that had rookie day one starters,
right,
or second year, but played 1 year, second year starters at quarterback in the league.
You also have 8 brand new head coaches. Usually the NFL's usually average about 4 to 5.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the cycle. The life cycle of it is like between 3 and 5, actually.
Yeah.
I believe 8 is the most in this century of new head coaches, so that could play a factor as well.
Rookie quarterbacks are bad at football in the NFL.
Right.
That's just the rule. Even Mahomes didn't play his rookie year and then got in his second season and played pretty well. In fact, good. But even he was like not there. And we all know about Peyton Manning setting the record for interceptions in a season, his rookie year and all that. Right. That's just what it is. That's the learning curve of playing football in the NFL when you haven't done it before.
Let's go beyond the NFL, though. Like, who's the best quarterback in college football right now? Sam Ewers probably at Texas.
Ewers and or his backup, Manning.
Right, no kidding, right? Gosh, no kidding, right?
Out there just shreds. I mean, they're playing an overmatched team.
I guess what I'm saying is, like, by and large, when I especially watch college football, everybody's quarterbacks are overwhelmed. Even the guys that are the quarterbacks of the teams that are good to really good.
Yeah.
Like, so far this year in the FCS, the quarterbacks that I've seen, they're like, that guy's the man. Are Mark Gronowski, who's been the starter at South Dakota State for 50 years, and whoever's playing quarterback at Idaho because Jason Eck is just the quarterback god or something, and they just find it. I mean, they had Giovanni McCoy transfer, Jack Lane break his collarbone, Jack Wagner get knocked out of the game, and then the fourth kid, I don't even know his name, it looks great. Yeah. It's amazing what they've been able to do. And Tommy Malot's had flashes of being fine, but I'm talking about real quarterback play. Kaylee Ayat's had quarters of being good. It just seems though like I have a couple theories on this, but I just wanted to hash it out with you.
Well, I think I think a term that you use that I want to just seize on and sort of get to it is real quarterback play. One thing that is true now is if you don't have a dual threat quarterback, it seems like you don't have a quarterback for a lot of teams. Like that's what they absolutely are looking for and are willing to pick out anybody that they think is athletic enough to do it with their legs, and will figure out the quarterback playing part of this sort of after the fact or on the fly. And particularly, I am talking now about college football across that landscape, because I do agree with you. I think it's pretty tough to see college, who's, like you said, who's the best, but like even the top 10 to 15 college quarterbacks,
right,
what are they as quarterbacks?
Right.
And I think that the reason that is because quarterbacks aren't being developed to sit in the pocket, read defenses, learn a playbook, deliver the football. They're being developed to do those things at best on equal with how much can you run, how able are you to make plays off schedule, outside the playbook,
sure,
within an individual play. And there is such an emphasis on that,
sure, that
I think guys are way more playmakers in a sense now than they've ever been, but maybe not as good in their develop of, hey, like, it's cover two, man. They're gonna swing the safety over to where are we going? Sure. What's our second read? What's our third read? I mean, how many quarterbacks in college football right now are making it to a third read in a progression? Very few.
Right. No doubt. And that's why when I watch the Montana schools, they are doing a lot of that, and I feel like that's unfair to the player. I mean, Lamar Jackson is won 2 NFL MVPs, and he's not really required to get to his 1, 2, 3 back to the first read. It's usually 1, 2, go, right? I mean, Jalen Hurts, he's throwing the back shoulder fade, he's throwing the inside slant on the RPO, or he's just lowering his shoulder and trucking.
But also, it works.
No, it definitely works.
Like Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I guess what I'm saying is that there's these college guys that a lot of times they're getting asked to do this stuff that like even the best of the best can't do. I think there's been a distinct evolution in defenses, though, too. It used to be defenses were so stubborn. They needed these specific body types at these specific positions. The Mike linebacker, for example. Nobody's ever playing a Zach Thomas type Mike linebacker again, right? The Brian Cox is the 6'4", 260-pound hammer. The guy can't. He's not doing it because now the offense will check in and you got to guard Christian McCaffrey. You're dead. You cannot make the play.
Well, you can guard Christian McCaffrey this week.
Right, sure.
But
you know what I'm saying? Like people always ask, like, what was Dante Olson's thing that kept him out of the NFL? Because he's such sideline to sideline, nose for the football, such a great tackler, prolific, award-winning, all these things. But the great Griz linebacker, if he's in the game against Austin Eckler, because in the NFL, they don't care. They'll scrap the scheme and go after the mismatch over and over over and over and over again. So I do think there's an evolution of defense. Like people are favoring the Troy Anderson, Isaiah Simmons coverage linebacker type guy. Also, it used to be if you ran nickel, it was on 3rd and 9, and you're just putting your third corner out there. Now, so many teams run nickel packages all the time. And that guy's like a hybrid linebacker. There's just so many different things that defenses have done. And now I think people know how to run combo coverages. I think it's just way harder for quarterbacks to get things done. I do think there's been this narrative, it's all offense, especially in the NFL. I just think this pendulum swung back to the center a little bit.
I agree. And I mean, where you were going to, I think quarterback play is better than it's ever been before. I think defense is better than it's ever been before. I think just about everybody. I think the kickers are better by 1,000,000 than they've ever been before. I mean, they're insane what they're doing out there, kicking,
the pro
bunting,
kickers are crazy.
It's crazy. Man. So all of that stuff is all true. But let's take a guy like Caleb Williams, who, and I hate to say this, Packer fan. I think he's going to be really good. I think he's going to be a good pro quarterback. I don't know how good, but to a person like analyst-wise and so on, they think Ryan Poles has done a tremendous job of creating a system, not just a system, but a foundation of players and weapons of guys that he's brought in where, like, it's rare that a first overall picks go to teams like the Carolina Panthers, like Bryce Young did. Right. And the Bears are far better. Well, everybody is, but than that. And they've got
the Bears won 7 games last year, so they were, like, not good, but they weren't whatever the Panthers win 2.
Yeah, and so the Bears have an at worst middle of the pack defense, and they have great playmakers. They're not running the ball well, which is a real problem for them. But Caleb Williams has thrown for a grand total of like 250 yards in 2 games total combined.
Right.
And last night in the game, you see him. He's got very normal for an NFL quarterback, and for him, I mean, his arm talent is in no question.
No question.
Back shoulder balls with wide margins of error, and he's just missing.
Yeah.
And it's not because he can't throw it, and it's not because he doesn't know what to do. It's just because it's different, man. Like when you step out there and things are faster, and you're like, oh my God, what do I got to do here? And it's hard, and you got to wait till you take that step. We saw this with Jordan Love. Jordan Love last year, a lot of people were out on.
Yeah.
Week 8 on, he's like the top 5 quarterback in the league.
Yeah, he came around for sure.
And it just takes time, man. It takes time to get there.
Five Valleys Restoration, your view is our view, and what a beautiful view it is. We are proud to be locally owned, locally operated. We love our community here in Missoula and also the full Five Valleys that we do service. We give back to the community, we service our community. Our kids go to school here, we live here, we play here, and we love it.
So tell me this, when it comes back around to the Big Sky Conference, I do understand. I agree with your premise that some of this has gone towards dual threat, or I mean, in some schools' cases, guys that can just run, and then we'll just figure out if they can throw a couple times. I mean, that's what the Grizz did last year with Clifton McDowell. Like, we just need you to throw the ball like 14 times. You need to complete like 8 or 9 of those. If you complete 10, we're going to roll. And, the Cats have done this a little bit with Tommy Blatt, although he's a lot better passer than I think some people gave him credit for.
And he's a lot better passer now than he was 2-3 years ago. For
sure. But I just look at the league now, and this used to be a quarterback league. It's not really right now. You got a couple guys, but like Eastern Washington has not had the dude in several years now, right? I mean, Idaho might be just the replacement Eastern Washington, where they just have dude after dude after dude. That might be the thing that's going to save this narrative. But like Sac State, Caden Bennett's fine, but Kevin Thompson was absolutely nailed. Our correspondent, Kevin Thompson. Remember when we had him on the
KT,
Tootell Nuanez,
he was just our Sac State insider.
They were like, hey, he's a 7th-year senior. Just call him whenever you want. We don't know when he has class. We don't even know if he does have class. Call him. That was awesome. But he was like shredding people, right? Garrett Saffron before him. And I'm not trying to be a hater, but you go down the line. Davis Alexander at Portland State compared to what Portland State has now. Nobody is as good at quarterback as they were. Is this a transfer portal thing? Is this a recruitment thing? Are all the good guys just going to Baylor and Cal now? Where are we at? Why is there just not as much, or do we just not even know the answers? This is a complete mystery.
I don't think we know the answer except for this. It ain't true at Montana. They got a dude who's a straight-up slinger.
So why do they play the other guy against all the backups?
Okay. The Higgs boson is the God particle, right, that they've been searching for, and they've been slamming particles into each other in these simulators in CERN, Switzerland, right, underground to try and find this thing. That is not as big a mystery as why Ayat just isn't the dude, and we just roll with this kid. It's not even a question anymore. Like I've stirred on this. One thing that I do. I think if I might take just a little bit of credit here, I really try and get there to think critically about things in the context of sports and like kind of wrap my mind around, well, why this, why that, what would be the decision here, what would be the decision there. But the more I've thought about it, the more staunch I have become in this, that Ayat, he's the rare, especially at this level guy, who is a quarterback's quarterback first, talking about thrower of the football, reader of defenses, knows what he's doing, and has the athletic ability to just go pick it up for you.
And he's got the stuff. Like he's got the savvy and like
the attitude.
Bryce Young looks like he's going to cry on the field on Sundays.
I cry watching it. For him.
Kealili Ayat does not. He has got all sorts of gusto and swagger, and he's got so much confidence.
This is a thing where, unlike last year, where Griz quarterbacks failed out and you got Clifton McDowell kind of by default.
Sure.
And he played well throughout the course of that year.
He did. Clifton McDowell, the Southland Player of the Week this last week. Did you see that?
Tip of the cap. Good
McDowell versus Vidlac. McNeese State versus Stephen F. Austin.
Fun. It's fun.
It's something. Got to find some element of fun in this wild world.
But this is not a commentary on Logan Fife not being good enough. Logan Fife's good enough to be the quarterback. He just happens to be going up against a guy who I think has the potential to be an all-timer for the University of Montana. And I don't know why. For the life of me, I don't know why you mess around with that.
Okay, so Tuesdays with Tootell here on the Big Sky Breakdown, probably presented by Jewelry Design Center. Jewelry Design Center is owned and operated by Brian Toon. He's a former standout defensive tackle for the University of Montana, was on the 1995 National Championship team, as well as that 96 team that went all the way to the championship game before losing to the Marshall Thundering Herd and one and only Randy Moss. Brian has been in the jewelry business. His family's been in the jewelry business since 1977, and they're so happy to have their showroom rolling here in Missoula. They've been open for about a year now. If you haven't checked it out, please go do it. Right across from the Montana Club, 2501 Brook Street, Jewelry Design Center, your jeweler for life. So during the postgame press conference after Montana's 59-2 destruction of...
Notice we haven't broken this game down, nor will we.
Yeah, exactly, right. Want to know what happened if you somehow missed it? The Grizz scored 39 points in 20 minutes and then still kept pouring it on even though they were playing all the backups. They tried to put in their fifth-string running back, Malai Fanoti, who rushed for like 175 yards because poor Morehead State can't tackle him. Mm-hmm. That's about all we need to do besides the score-a-gabi. First game in college football history that finished with a 59-2 score. So I thought that was something.
How about that?
Yeah. If you're going to beat a team 59-2, I guess make it historic some way or the other.
Yeah.
That's about all we need to say. But in the post-game press conference, I thought Andrew Houghton asked Bobby Houck a good question about Junior Bergen, and Bobby only answered half of it. Andrew was trying to get Bobby to talk about the lift Junior Bergen's return could give them. He only talked about why he hadn't been playing rather than the injury. He said he hasn't been practicing. If you don't practice, you can't play for the Montana Grizzlies. I then asked him about the reshuffling of the offensive line, and he talked about how Cade Klimzak hadn't joined the team until the summer, and they just didn't have enough reps for them to trust him until now, week 3. Then they move him to center. They move Liam Brown back to guard.
It's amazing how quickly the reps come when you're losing up front and you need something.
For sure. So I guess my broad question, though, is this. There is a methodology within Bobby Houck's own mind and within his program.
No question.
For this madness.
Yes. Absolutely.
Is it too hard to build trust with the head coach and his staff of the Montana Grizzlies?
Well, it is for anybody not in the program. But I think there is, first of all, I can't answer that question, Colter, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't think any of us know. But I would say there is a proof in the pudding. I thought what I watched in the 4th week of the year last season was not merely a loss to a bad team on the road. I thought what I was witnessing was a mutiny.
Like the beginning of the end.
I thought I was watching a team that said, we're good here, we've had enough of this. And what I watched unfold from that time was one of the great cohesion, rallying together.
No doubt.
Come together, figure it out, get better, and play for each other chemistry teams I've ever seen.
It's crazy when you really think about it because the Grizz did. They looked like a completely disjointed team that had no team chemistry whatsoever, and then they explicitly won because of their continuity as a team the next 10 weeks.
So I have to say, like, given that this is a team that does trust their head coach and the coaching staff, and not just trust, but I think has, good relationships in general at large. Again, this is speculation. All I can do is look at what happens on the field and sort of extrapolate. But when you look at these things, that's kind of what you got to say. And who knows what Bobby is saying to his quarterbacks and in the quarterback room, and what the message is, and how we're going to go about this, and what we're thinking about you guys. And if it's all just a mystery to them as well, and you're just dangling the carrot so you can get the ferocious competition that you're looking for, or if you set them both down and go, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start We're going to start 8, and then we're going to go to 12, and then we're going to go back, and then we're going to go back again. And I don't know what those conversations are like. And I don't know, of course, the motivation to do it the way they're doing it. What I do know is when I watch them play, I see a guy that I have not seen before at the University of Montana in terms of his ability,
in the wild,
right?
For sure.
I mean, when I say I haven't seen him, I mean I was a kid the last time I saw.
Right.
But I mean, I haven't seen it in terms of ability today and potential ability for the next however many years. And that is, that's my 2 cents.
Tuesdays with Tootell, presented in part by Town Pump. Town Pump, keeping us fueled up once again all season long. Brawl of the Wild by the mile, back for yet another year. They're going to take us all over the place. We got trips planned to Cheney, to Moscow, to Bozeman, and maybe even out to Portland. We couldn't do it. We couldn't get from here to there without Town Pump. Town Pump, Montana's best for more than 6 decades. Talking to a couple of players about that, former players about this. Got a group text with some guys that played for the mid-2000s Grizz, some of my buddies from college. And they say that Bobby Hauck is waiting for somebody, and presumably Ayat, to just seize the job, to make it his. I get what they're saying.
I don't. What does that mean? So I don't get what they're saying. Or
he wants it to be incredibly clear who the guy is, but then so broad premise, I kind of understand that, but also how do you seize it if, like, in a game where you're killing the other team, the other guy plays the whole time? Like, they played Logan Fife by and large down the entire second half. So when they say seize it, I don't understand how that's going to happen. This quarterback situation reminds me so much of the 2005, 2006, 2007 Montana Grizzlies. They had an incredibly talented freshman in Cole Berquist, who ended up becoming one of my good friends, one of my roommates my last couple years of college. And Cole redshirted a year. This was back in the day when you couldn't play in games. But so he redshirted a whole year, and then his redshirt freshman year, he was in the mix, but he ended up not winning the job outright against Jason Washington. It was a transfer from Bowling Green. Then during the beginning part of that 2005 season, they sort of rode the roller coaster a little bit, and they would go back and forth between these two guys. Then it became clear that they needed to ride Berquist down the stretch, so they gave him the start at Idaho State. He takes control of the game. He starts and finishes the game. They win a tough game at the Holt Arena, and then Berquist was the starter for the rest of that year. But then they bring in a transfer the following offseason, Josh Swager from Washington State. Cole fades from the competition. He didn't like that. He thought it should be his job, and he didn't play in 2006. 2007 comes back around, and he's an All-American. He's All-American in 2008 as well. Ends up going and playing in Canada for several years. So, again, there is proof in the methodology here, but that was almost 20 years ago, and that was in the day where if you transferred, you had to sit out. You could only transfer once. All these different things. I don't know, man. I just wonder if they're just employing something because they think that they've done this before and it was effective, but maybe that efficacy does not exist here now in this modern age.
Well, there's a couple things. I mean, when we go back to seizing the job only amounts to Coach Hauck and the rest of the staff saying, yep, it's yours. I mean, so it's not, I mean,
true.
That's all that is. And I don't know what needs to be done in order for that to happen. But the other part of this here, yes, obviously the whole landscape of college sports is different, and transferring and NIL and everything else that does play its way into this. But last year, not to take any shots at any other, quarterbacks or whatever, but you could have switched back and forth as long as you wanted to, and I don't think anybody would have been like, oh, no, he can't, you shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that. Or if they were, it was because, hey, this guy isn't good enough. Like, Vidlak's not getting it done. He's not getting rid of the football.
Right.
Whatever. this is an instance where you've got the golden ticket to me. Like this isn't just a quarterback competition. This is a guy who's here because he's a legacy kid.
Sure.
And when you watch him play, you go, well, that's it. That's what you're looking for. That's what everybody is on this hunt to find, is what he's bringing to the table right here, basically across the board. Again, still a small sample size and all of that. And I don't know. None of us do all the things that happen on a day in, day out, practice in, practice out basis. What? But what I watch on the football field, there are reasons where you don't do it the way you've always done it, when all of a sudden what showed up is a Ferrari. Like, you just drive it. And that's what you do here, in my view.
How much of this, who is the biggest thorn in Montana's side during the second tenure of Bobby Hauck?
Montana State.
Well, Montana State certainly, but who's the only team that actually came here and won twice? Sac State.
Okay.
How'd they beat Montana the last time they were in Missoula? I guess 2 times ago. Last year they got ran out of the stadium. Different head coach, different system. But when they won in Missoula 28-21, they sliced and diced Montana with their 2 quarterback system and their 2 running back system. They were just eating that 3-3-5 up, doing whatever they wanted. I just wonder if so much of this motivation to do 2 quarterback systems is because who runs 2 quarterback systems right now in college football? Either incredibly offensive-oriented coaches like Troy Taylor who have this very, very complex way of doing this, or mostly, though, defensive coaches that think the 2 quarterback system is so hard to defend. So they're like, well, we're going to do this because this is what I hate to plan against.
Well, is this a 2 quarterback system, or is this a competition that's being had in front of our eyes?
That's a great question.
I mean, I don't think of Montana as a 2 quarterback system. I just think of them trying to decide what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so, just because...
Would this be easier if Fife was worse?
I mean...
Fife's better than both the guys from last year, right?
I don't think it's that hard as it is.
Right.
But yes, I mean, it's great for Montana that they've got a player who's as capable as Logan Fife. And I'll say it again. This is not about Logan Fife's deficiencies as a quarterback. Everything he's shown has been... like very solid,
for sure,
trustworthy. Yep. Come in, like, we can play and win with this guy playing quarterback if you're the Montana Grizzlies, right? So that's great. But the conversation isn't about him. It just isn't. It's about Ayat and what he can do.
Our family on our mom's side has a deep Montana history, especially stemming from Butte and Helena. And we are so proud. One of the things we are most proud of is to call ourselves Montanans. At Up Top Clothing, they have Montana-made and Montana-branded clothing for both men and women. Their Montana Till I Die collection is one of my favorite collections anywhere in the clothing world. And you can shop online and get the Montana Till I Die collection and all the other great gear that Up Top Clothing makes delivered right to your doorstep. Visit teamuptop.com, and if you use the promo code Skyline15, you're going to get a discount on all your online ordering. Teamuptop.com, Up Top Clothing, reminding you to take a step back and enjoy the moment. Tuesdays with Tootell, proudly presented by Up Top Clothing. Got your Up Top hat on. They have all sorts of sweet hats, whether you just want the standard logo,
Absolutely.
or they have all their Montana Till You Die. They have Griz, they have Bobcats, they have a variety of different Montana colleges. Up Top Clothing, proud to present Big Sky Breakdown Podcast, the Skyline Sports MT YouTube channel. Use Skyline15 at checkout, teamuptop.com. Up Top Clothing, reminding you to take a step back and enjoy the moment. All right, I don't know what we learned Saturday from the Grizz. So do you have anything left to add on Montana before we go to something else? Okay, no. Did you watch any other college football on Saturday? So did any of those games happen to involve anybody in the Big Sky Conference?
I watched no other Big Sky teams. I watched a whole lot of college football.
Did you see by chance? You don't follow. You need to get your Twitter back going.
Nah.
No, you need to just to follow the stuff and mostly just to retweet this. You got tens of thousands of followers on there. You need to distribute the content. I'll just give you a little rundown here. So, Northern Colorado continues to just not be able to figure out a way to finish it. They went defeated last year. Of course, the perception of them in Montana is that, they're just god-awful because they got run out of the stadium against University of Montana. They lost 40-0.
Right.
But they actually were in it. They were, they lost by a touchdown to Weber State. Took a late pick 6 for them to get that done. They had some closer games last year. This year, they take Abilene Christian all the way down the wire. They lose on a 54-yard field goal. So here we are, 3 games into year 2 under Ed Lamb, and he is 0-15. And it's just striking to think that a coach of that caliber is struggling as much to just get a win as what Northern Colorado's doing.
Yep.
Then this was compounded because I always thought that if the timing of Jay Hill leaving Weber State for BYU was different, that Ed Lamb would have gotten back into the Big Sky by going to Weber State, not Northern Colorado. Would have been a great fit. Ed Lamb has deep Utah ties. He was the head coach at Southern Utah for almost a decade and did great there, and also has BYU ties. He had come from BYU. So I can't help but think if Ed Lamb is just like, gosh dang it, how did I not get Weber State? Why am I in Greeley?
Right.
But then Weber goes for it. They have a 3rd and 2 from their own 2-yard line. They get stuffed. They have a 4th and 1 from their own 1-yard line. They get stuffed. Down 1. If you take the field goal there, you're up 2. They still get the defensive stop, though. They come back and they lose. They kick a field goal attempt at the buzzer to win, and they shank it, so they lose 17-16 to Lamar. And this was just part of what was, by and large, a really, really tough Saturday for the Big Sky Conference. Montana State did not play. Idaho routed UAlbany. The Grizz destroyed a non-scholarship team. And other than that,
Portland State did not play.
I mean, Portland State, we got to get to this for a minute. This is nuts, man. Pertussis, which is whooping cough. This is the World War I plague, right? This is like what people were dying from in the trenches back in the 100-plus years ago. So Portland State calls off the game against South Dakota. This was supposed to be in Portland. If you haven't seen it, if you do have Twitter, go on Twitter and find South Dakota's athletic director. He had a very, very sharp tweet going through all this saying, hey, we respect Portland State's decision, but this was not our decision. This is their decision. We were ready to play. We told the league. We told the Big Sky. We told everybody that we were going to play this game. Portland State was the one that didn't want to play this game. But that's just another pain in the neck.
Just to be clear, it was an outbreak of whooping cough across the whole team, and they had so many people sick that they didn't
now Portland State came out today and said there was only one player that had whooping cough.
Oh, really?
And that there was dozens that had been exposed to, but then it was uncertain whether those people had acquired it. Either way, they were worried about the exposure, the spreading of it.
It's funny in the medical world because there's some things that have fairly innocuous names that are really, really bad things, and then some things that don't sound that bad, or that sound really bad that aren't actually that bad. But whooping cough, you go, well, I mean, I don't know. How bad can that be? Bad.
Really bad.
Yeah. And
it takes forever to kick.
Yeah,
right?
And it's like, it's one of the things that we've been fighting, we as a society, as a planet, for a very long time, and done a pretty good job against with, you got to get vaccinated for it as a kid, and and there's reasons why. And so when it pops up like this, you go, well, how? Like, where does this come from? But also, it's something that has to be taken very, very seriously because exposures there is it could be devastating.
Well, it's super contagious, and you're in each other's faces. So either way, it's just a really weird situation.
But ultimately, not a football game was played.
No, it's a bad deal to be in with everybody else. So when it comes to the Big Sky Conference, though, it's just been so interesting because of this extra non-conference game, because of this elongated year. We've just seen so many one-sided affairs, whether it's Montana destroying Morehead State or, whomever playing a money game up. Like, I don't know what to think of Sac State right now. Sac State has lost 2 Mountain West games and then beat up on Nichols this last week. All exactly expected results. They're 1-2, but I have no clue. I don't know.
Well, and I think that's the thing about FCS football and the Big Sky Conference especially, is that until you get about 3 weeks minimum into conference play.
Yeah.
We can sit here and say, yeah, hey, Montana State, probably Idaho, going to be pretty good. And
if I was to rank them right now, I'd say Idaho's been the most impressive.
For sure.
Because Idaho hung at Oregon, beat Wyoming, and they beat the absolute heck out of UAlbany this last week.
They got a measure of retribution.
And then Montana State's been number 2. You could say, okay, weaker opponents, but they still did beat an FBS. I know New Mexico's not good, but they still beat an FBS
on the road. Yeah.
And then I'd say, reluctantly, the Grizz are 3, even though I thought the Grizz looked lackluster week 1 and bad the second half of week 2. And who knows
Well, that's the thing is, here's my theory on betting. If the best you can do is break even, don't bet. And unfortunately for Montana, this was a situation this past weekend where the best they could do is break even.
Right.
The worst they could do is look bad. And, I mean, they're never going to lose that game, but like that would be we don't even talk about that. But you could go out there. Let's put it like this. They dominated in every way that you can possibly dominate a football game. And all they're getting is a shoulder shrug like, yeah, well, that's what you're supposed to do. Like there's no like, hey, look at how much better they look. Hey, look at these yards they gain. Like there's none of that. Like no, that's not it.
Here's your two statistics that could show the dominance of this game. Montana had 410 rushing yards, and Morehead State had minus 15 rushing yards. So the Grizzlies outrushed their opponent by 425 yards.
Yeah.
Also, Morehead State had 45 plays for 45 yards. So the Grizzlies scored 14 more points than they allowed yards within the game.
Yeah.
That is as dominant as you can be.
And it's just not a fair fight, man. I mean, it's
not even at all.
And that's the thing. Like, there's one thing about stepping up, but then there's another thing about, why are we even playing this game? Like, does Morehead State get to go home and be like, hey, that was kind of fun, like to be in Montana and be at Washington Grizzly Stadium. Like maybe that's the biggest, audience they're going to have for a football game probably for most of their careers of the kids playing there. But do you feel good about that? I don't know.
I mean, their coach in the post game, I appreciated his honesty, but he's like, we saw this team on film. I don't know how they lost last week. I was very disappointed when I finished the film that they did lose because I knew they were going to be real mad and really ready to take it out on us, and I knew that was going to make us even more in trouble. He also said, I think someday my guys will look back at this on a fun memory because they got to go to Montana and they got to play in front of this sweet crowd. But right now, they don't even know what just happened to them. That was a horrible and miserable experience for my football team.
Well, and they, in addition to being completely overmatched, they didn't play well. Like there's a lot of mistakes that were preventable that just
catch
didn't happen.
The kickoff and you have to down it on the half-inch line and just all sorts of stuff.
Your best offensive player of the game gets annulled because of an illegal shift. Yeah. After which you take a timeout and you come out of the timeout and throw a bubble screen for an interception, like out of a timeout. I don't know. That's a bad way to start a football game, and that's pretty much how the game ended at that moment in time too.
Earlier this summer, I got a chance to have a little collaborative commercial shoot with several different businesses that were very supportive of Griz and Big Sky Conference football. So hung out with some folks from Lithia Ford, Aspen Sound, the Montana Party Bus, Wear Your Roots Clothing, and Canyon River Golf Club. We had a day where we just hung out. We went to Wear Your Roots, got some gear, went to Aspen Sound, checked out all the stereo equipment, drove some Ford trucks around, and then made our way out to the golf course and while riding the party bus and play a little golf. So usually you don't tell you that the commercial's coming, but here's the commercial that we came up with. In the Treasure State, University of Montana football is a way of life. Lithia Ford has long been a proud sponsor of Griz football, and Lithia Ford of Missoula is thrilled to have several of the best Montana football seniors driving the best trucks in Montana. Aspen Sound is the premier car audio and accessory shop in Montana. Aspen Sound makes sure the boys are riding in style with tinted windows and state-of-the-art stereo systems. There's always a party in Montana. Whether you're going to a concert, a wedding, or a football game, the Montana Party Bus will get you there. Skyline Sports and ESPN MT cover the Big Sky with more depth than anyone. Check out SkylineSportsMT.com and tune in to Nuanez now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula every day. My Montana Roots and Wear Your Roots Clothing is your go-to spot for the most unique and comfortable lifestyle clothing you'll find anywhere. And get your custom t-shirts to support your favorite player. From 5 local businesses who love Montana, best of luck to the Griz as they pursue another Big Sky Conference championship. Thanks to all those fine sponsors: Lithia Ford, Aspen Sound, Montana Party Bus, Canyon River Golf Club, and Wear Your Roots Clothing. Okay, so last thing here, Ryan.
Yes.
Because it is this 12-game season, we have one more non-conference game. Now the Bobcats get their version of Morehead State, and I actually think Mercyhurst is going to be worse. Mercyhurst is in their very first year ever playing Division I football of any sort. They were not some sort of Division II powerhouse by any means either. And this is a game that was just a complete fill-in because Stephen F. Austin just abruptly canceled their game against Montana State in May. So the Cats had to fully scramble to just get somebody
Find something
to play.
Yeah.
So I don't really know if we're going to learn a single thing about Montana State coming out of their final non-conference game into conference play. But for the Griz, now they're going to have to readjust. Western Carolina looked good early against North Carolina State. Lost to Campbell, which is a little bit strange, but then won again last week. So they're 2-1. They are back into the top 25. They are 24th this week, which North Dakota was 23rd when they beat the Grizzlies. So I guess two-part question. Is it advantageous or disadvantageous to basically have a second straight bye for Montana State going into conference play? And also, what do you think of sort of the pendulum of opponents that the Grizzlies have to pay? Top 25, 59-2, another top 25 with conference play on the horizon.
Yeah, I think for Montana State, because they were playing so well and with such dominance, having a bye followed by a de facto bye isn't great. Now, they are going to play, and
Here's the
you
basic thing,
get to
though.
go through it and do what you do, execute your game plan.
Tom Stuber had such an interesting story because I knew all of the things that had happened in terms of injuries for Montana State, but it was striking to just see it in two written paragraphs. Like they're missing like 8 starters or something like that.
And obviously the upside for this is you've got essentially 3 weeks of resting guys from the end of your week 2, well, your third game, but a week 2 game through a bye. Don't have to play them this week, and then you can see where you're at in terms of getting ready for Idaho State week 1 of conference play. So that is obviously a major benefit. But I do think, look, it is not a bye in the following respect. Well, obviously, literally, it's not a bye. You're playing a football game, but also you do have to go through the things as a team to get ready to play, get a game plan put together, practice, and then go out and execute that. And so, in terms of sort of getting, I don't want to say getting back in the flow. I mean, you're gone for 1 week. It's not like you're missing anything, but to go through that process and then presumably win going away is sort of a good thing. But also, it is tough to have when all of a sudden you've been just beating teams handily or not playing or whatever, and now all of a sudden you find yourself in a football game. How do you respond? Because it's been a while now. All of a sudden, where like now you got to execute in moments of of high leverage situations, and that's different than just executing when you've already got a 4 touchdown lead.
Sure, no doubt. And this would be because the Cats have looked great from about halftime of New Mexico on so far this year. That'd be my biggest concern about Montana State, though, is that when you've had this valiant comeback win that earns you national publicity because it happens in week 0, then you go down to Utah Tech and you just stuff them, 8 straight 3-and-outs, and you start playing a bunch of backups down the stretch, and then you just boat race Maine. You're up 35-0, and you empty the bench, and then you have an off week, and then you boat race Mercyhurst, which is almost certainly going to happen. How much more formidable does Idaho State look when you got to go to Pocatello?
Yeah, but I also think of all the teams that you could face week 1 of conference play, that's pretty good for Montana State because it's not a layup.
No,
but it ain't Idaho. Right. It ain't Montana. It ain't totally. some of the So you go in a game to have some competition, but you expect to win. That they're the better team here, and go in and do what you do and get a dub.
And then Montana, I think it's a great tune-up for conference play. And then you get to have a bear of a start to conference play, too. It's so funny that the narrative of the offseason for the Grizz was their schedule's so easy, and that actually hasn't played out so far. Missouri State, I think, was a heck of a lot better than people expected. North Dakota beat the Grizz. Of course, everybody knew Morehead State was going to be a walkthrough, but now you got another top 25 team coming to town. Then you got Weber coming to town to open conference play, and then you got Northern Arizona, who remains a mystery, but some people think might actually be one of the better teams in the conference.
Well, they
under
go
a first-year head
Eastern
coach.
first.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I keep skipping that last date of September, but at Eastern Washington on the 28th, which is actually a great conference.
That's a good opener for the
Grizzlies.
Grizzlies.
Then you can get rolling going into Weber and NAU.
But to answer your question about the pendulum swing, I think this, because of what's happened in the 3 previous weeks, I think this is a really ideal situation for the Grizzlies to have to play a ranked opponent in their last non-conference game, a home game, obviously, and Missouri State looked great, and maybe the Grizzlies didn't look as great as we expected week one. Then they looked great, but only for 30 minutes, and then they looked like an absolute train wreck for 30 minutes and lose. Then they play a game in which it's impossible to learn anything about anyone, and now you're here at week 4, and it's your first real opportunity to go send a message and make a statement about this is who we are and this is what we do if you're the Grizz.
And that you've gotten better.
Right. Totally.
You need to be, now we have a sample size. You need to be better than week 1 in week 4. You just have to be.
Yes.
That's exactly it. Same with Montana State. Like, even though they blew Maine out, if they get a huge lead against Mercyhurst and then Brent Vigen says, hey, 2s and 3s, you're in there, they look terrible when they put their third string in. I mean, Maine won the second half of that game. You're down 38-7, so you're not going to win. But, like, Maine scored several times, and Brent Vigen was mad after the game. He said, we did not look good. When we put those young guys in there, they were swimming. Same thing with Montana State. You got to look better.
You do. And the other thing, too, to your point of getting better, after this Saturday, Colter, the season is a third over. I mean, we're 4 games into a 12-game, season. And I realize that the real season, especially at this level, starts with conference play. But you have to be who you're going to be by the time conference play begins, especially when you have that extra game, which you do this particular year. And so that's why I think these are big moments. I think this is a big game for Montana to solidify what you are, who you are, and I'd like to think positionally too. Like, you get a depth chart, and this is what we're doing.
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Town Pump. Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
There's always a party in Montana, whether you're going to a wedding, a football game, a concert. Montana Party Bus can get you there safe and will take you anywhere in Montana. You can relax with friends in style, luxury, and safety. Western Montana based for local and regional travel within Montana borders. Montana Party Bus is great for both large and small groups with a capacity of up to 30 guests. If you want to elevate your event, call them anytime, 406-200-8096. You can also visit mtpartybus.com. Travel anywhere in Montana in style with the Montana Party Bus. Tuesdays with Tootell, proudly presented in part by Cash One Pawn. Cash One Pawn, the premier pawn shop in Western Montana. They have an extensive inventory of everything from firearms to power tools to jewelry. You can visit just past the airport on Roller Coaster Road, just short of the Y, or you can shop online, cash1pawn.com. That's cash, the number 1, pawn.com.
I would just like to clarify something about myself for people who are invariably just agitated with me right now, okay? And to some extent, I am with myself. I realize that the article "we" is not one to use when you're not a part of a team. And I am not, when I use the word "we," when I'm talking about the Grizzlies and the Cats, I am not talking about myself and the team.
You're saying,
I am saying it from a first-person perspective of them. Like, if I'm Montana, we need to. If I'm Montana State, we can't.
Sure.
But often, as I've listened back, because I'm very critical of myself.
Well, that's good. A lot of people talk on the radio and don't ever listen to themselves.
It can get lost, and it can sound, and this is absolutely my fault, that I'm saying, we as in me, and no, I am not saying that, and I'm going to try and make it clear as I speak that when I use the word "we," I'm just simply trying to speak from the perspective of the team in a sort of hypothetical sense. So for what it's worth, God bless you. out there listening and dealing with me and my lack of professionalism on this point.
Yeah, anybody that says we in regard to their team that they root for, I think is pathetic. But also, I lack.
Now, come on.
But
now.
I also
you can't do that.
I also lack happiness and joy in my life. So if that brings you happiness and joy, keep on doing it. That's not true. This brings me great happiness and great joy, and so does sharing all of our sports talk commentary with all of you.
How much time do we have left?
No,
None?
that's it.
It's it. Okay.
By the time the video gets to be about 45 minutes to an hour, it takes the whole week to actually upload onto the YouTube. What else you got?
We're talking FCS sports betting lines next week.
Okay. Oh yeah, you have some thoughts to say about this.
And I don't have. I'm not doing it. I'm not shorting myself on this.
Okay.
I got a lot to say.
Are you critical of these? Give us like a tease of this. You think that they are bad? You think that they're good? You think that the people making them don't know anything?
A lot. You're covering a lot of the territory there.
Okay, good.
Say it's how much the people making the lines know about the games.
Yes.
And then their relative influence to expectations from fan bases.
Okay. So
there you go.
Great. Yeah, that's coming up. I will say, just to add to this, so we can hash this out later. This is just such an arrogant thing to say, but I truly think that they took the Big Sky Conference women's basketball games off the machines because there was a very few people, including myself and my brother, that would bet on them all the time, and we would win always because the lines were just so bad.
It is the goal when you're setting a line to get the line correct in relation to the game? No.
No, the goal is to get 50% of the money on either side.
Even money. That's it.
Yeah.
And you can't do it if you don't have enough bettors, and if all you got are sharks in the water for Big Sky Conference women's hoops, you probably shouldn't roll it out there anymore. It's a good way to take a hit if you're the book.
We used to always say, like, betting the non-Montana schools in Big Sky women's hoops is as slimy as I've ever felt, but also as much money as I've ever made. Bring it back. Tuesdays with Tootell. We'll see you next week, but always keep it tuned here. SkylineSportsMT.com, the Skyline Sports YouTube channel, the Big Sky Breakdown podcast channel, and everything in between. Skyline Sports, every day, every season.
So will you marry me in your future? Or maybe you do it all over again. Hi, I'm Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, inviting you to come see the largest selection of Will You Marry Me in the state of Montana. The brightest diamonds of every shape and size, unique settings built to last, and skilled jewelers on site offering free sizing and maintenance for life, because that's how long we want to be your jeweler. Jewelry Design Center in Missoula, on Brooks, across from the Montana Club.